Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Envision's Microsoft Ignite Day One recap. My name is Todd Knapp, Envision's founder and CEO, and with me I have Jeremy Girard and Kyle Mueller. Jeremy, I think probably a number of people wouldn't know you or Jeremy, or actually for me for that matter, but I already introduced myself, so your turn. It's first thing in the morning. There's donuts on the screen. Talk to me.
Hey everyone. As Todd said, Jeremy Girard. I'm the director of marketing for Envision Technology Advisors.
Mr. Kyle, how about you?
Hey everyone, my name is Kyle Mueller. You might recognize my face from some of our other videos on the channel. I am a data impact architect here at Envision.
And a morning person too, right? You love first thing in the mornings?
Absolutely, absolutely. Like I definitely wasn't up until 2 o'clock last night.
Right. Hanging out with, so what were you doing at 2 o'clock in the morning? I'm assuming Ignite.
So yesterday was actually just unwinding after all the Ignite craziness. I was tuned into the live broadcast until probably around 11 o'clock local time here.
Yeah, me too. I was on until pretty late last night. So I don't know about you guys, but I think my expectations for what I would get out of a virtual conference were pretty blown away. I was amazed by how fluid and effective I thought the conference was, but that's just me. Jeremy, what were your thoughts? What did you think?
Yeah, I agree completely. The fact that it's been so long since we've been able to go to a in-person type conference, you always wonder how the virtual is going to be. I thought it was incredibly immersive. It was really engaging, and myself personally, this is not the type of conference that I would normally go to. Much more of a designer. I'm a marketer, so the conferences I go to are much different than this. I wasn't sure how relevant it was going to be to me content wise, and I had so much that I enjoyed watching, so much that was incredibly relevant and poignant that I was excited to be a part of, excited to watch. So I can't wait for day two. Day one blew me away.
Yeah. How about you, Kyle? What did you think?
I mean, Jeremy took the words right out of my mouth, and I was blown away. It was really absolutely amazing, all of the announcements yesterday. I mean, the way that they did the opening keynote through Microsoft Mesh was mind blowing, for lack of better words. I mean, having that full virtual aquarium environment, bringing in James Cameron at one point as well. That's something that they couldn't have done as efficiently in person as they did, really making the most out of that virtual environment this year.
Yep, I attended it, the keynote on my Oculus. So it was especially crazy for me. I have some great video of that, by the way. We will do that tomorrow. But yeah, when I joined the session in Oculus through AltSpace VR, it literally pulled me into a lobby, and there were people milling around in the lobby. And then we all got an announcement that the session was beginning, and we had to walk through the lobby and down through the tunnel and into the big stadium, where the stage was. And you literally could walk to the front of the room and pick a seat. Or pick a spot, really. But when they were doing some of the things that you saw as, just sort of like popping on the screen, like at one point there were fish that appeared to be swimming in front of James Cameron. They were swimming through the audience, like they were swimming around our heads, and yeah, totally unexpected experience for sure. And somehow I didn't realize you could join by Oculus in advance, but the moment they started talking about it, I spun around and grabbed mine. Um, so, Jeremy, there were a ton of announcements yesterday, and we're going to kind of just jump through some of those. But I'm curious, from the point of view of a marketing person, somebody who doesn't wake up in the morning thinking about speeds and feeds, bits and bytes. Um, you know, what was your big takeaway from the day yesterday?
As exciting as all the stuff around Mesh was, the content I was most interested in was some of the updates to Microsoft Teams, specifically what they were doing with Teams webinars. As a marketer, virtual events are a huge part of what we do, especially now. Webinars are something we've done many times over the years, and one of the things they addressed is that the webinar platform, it hasn't changed very much in quite some time. Everyone's using the same handful of solutions, the same handful of views. So seeing what they were doing with Teams webinars is honestly a game changer for us. Being able to bring that into the Microsoft ecosystem, being able to use some of the different views that they have, being able to connect it with Dynamics to do some additional automations and marketing afterwards, that was absolutely incredible. And I particularly liked a couple of the team's webinar sessions that I attended, and they really made me think we're talking here about a virtual event, but stepping back for a minute, when they were talking about virtual events in general, some of the things that stuck out to me is they talked about CES this year and how they were forced to go fully virtual. But what they realized was that by doing so, they obviously expanded their viewership to a much larger audience, people that couldn't normally go to Las Vegas for the show. That wasn't a barrier anymore. They were able to log on, they were able to be part of the show. They even said that some of their exhibitors liked that format because instead of spending their marketing budgets to get people out there and ship out all of their booth displays, they were able to repurpose that investment towards the presentation themselves, and they were able to have a much more higher production value on the presentation that was broadcast as part of that virtual stream. And they went so far as to say the organizers of Microsoft Ignite, when they were talking about virtual events, they specifically said that virtual's always been an afterthought. It's almost like you plan the live event and then you say, well, what's the virtual aspect going to be?
Yeah.
And they said the exact words, and I wrote it down: virtual experiences are the core now, that going forward, even once we are able to safely gather for in-person events, we've been forever changed in how we are going to broadcast these events. And I agree with what they're saying, where it's now going to be virtual first. We're going to think
Yeah.
about the virtual experience, and then we're going to back into, okay, and what is the in-person aspect of it?
Well,
So
yeah, I don't know about
those
you,
are
but
the
I mean,
kind
I had the same thought that you had. I mean, I've obviously a business owner. I think all the time about that issue of marketing and events, and I don't think I've ever attended a conference. I've been to Ignite twice. I don't think I've ever attended one where I was able to go to as many sessions and get
yeah,
as much content as I got yesterday. Usually I'm tired. I'm wiped by, 2:33 in the afternoon because I've been on my feet all day going between sessions. It's usually a huge venue. And so sometimes somehow I magically always manage to pick the two like sessions that are on opposite sides of the building, and it's like I'm running back and forth all day long. And by 2, 3, I'm pretty wiped out, which also means I don't really get the content. I don't get the focus like I was when I started my day because I'm not fresh anymore. None of that yesterday. I took in so much content. So you mentioned Microsoft Teams changes. I mean, just for those of you who are here to just hear what the actual updates were, big things in Microsoft Teams. I took a few notes. Teams security and privacy. We've added invite-only meeting controls. That's a huge deal. End-to-end encryption. They're providing multi-geo support now. They're giving us the ability to, as Jeremy said, do some things with webinars and specifically webinar registration. There's a whole bunch of new tools around Teams Connect, which allows you to create external teams and collaborate with people that are outside your org, something that we actually do through guest accounts now, but if anyone who's done it knows it's really clumsy, and there's like 100 things that guests can't do when they're in as a guest in your team, and so it kind of works, it kind of doesn't. Apparently that's going to be resolved now. And of course, the new layouts and audience views that are available. They also built on a feature that I actually almost never use, but that maybe I'll try again. They built on their Outlook integration features. It's always been the case that you could upload an I mean, it said Outlook, geez, sorry. I'm not a morning person either. PowerPoint. It's always been the case that you could upload a PowerPoint and then, basically run it from inside of Teams. They're really building on that and leaning into the PowerPoint Online functionality. I've demoed that for people before, where I show multi-language support and the ability for users to open the presentation on their own device and do their own translation in real time to whatever their native language is. But now a lot of that is coming directly inside of Teams, which is pretty cool. So thanks, Jeremy. I agree. I think the changes in Teams are huge, and we haven't even talked Viva yet. But today is my Viva day for Ignite, so I expect
Me too.
that'll be on the recap tomorrow.
Me too.
Kyle, for you, what was the big exciting thing for you?
So I think the biggest pieces of excitement for me, tripping my words this early, really come down to two categories: ease of use and cost savings. So on the ease of use side, one of the landmark pieces that was really, really cool for me was that they're taking the formula language that currently exists in Power Apps called Power FX, and
Yes.
they're actually going to be expanding that across the Power platform. So they've already mentioned that you're going to be able to use Power FX directly in Power Virtual Agents and Power Automate. And I'm anxious to see if they announce anything today about how that might tie into Power BI as well, since Power BI is kind of the ugly stepchild of the Power platform. It always seems to be in its own category. It has its own admin center and all that. But also on the ease of use side, you have with Microsoft Mesh the MRTK, the mixed reality toolkit that they developed for using Unity to develop apps within Microsoft Mesh. I attended a session where they actually put together, start to finish, a mixed reality app with no code in 10-15 minutes time. That is absolutely crazy, being able to create that immersive of an experience with zero background in mixed reality, zero coding languages required. It was almost entirely a drag and drop process for them, which I think is really going to open the door to augmented reality and mixed reality development for a lot more people out there. And on the cost saving side, you have Power Automate Desktop is now available in Windows 10 directly with your E3 or E5 licenses, which is going to really allow people to take control of automating their everyday tasks through RPA style automations. And on top of that, the biggest thing for me, as you know, I live, eat, and breathe Power BI. They finally, at long last, announced the general availability timeline for Power BI Premium Gen 2 and the Premium per user plan. And it was way cheaper than I think anybody outside of the MVP community expected. On top
$10,
of
right?
these, yeah, on top of pro licensing, which is $10 right now per user, it's just another $10 per user per month for premium per user, and that gives you access to deployment type or deployment pipelines, to the XMLA endpoint, to
Paginated
paginated
reporting.
reports. Exactly. There's so many things that opens the door
See,
up for only
He's
$10.
over here. See, Jeremy, he's smiling so politely. He's like, "Oh, yay, paginated reports. Who cares?" Yeah, no, I agree. I'm totally excited about that too, Kyle. Here, nerd high five. Did we do it? No, wrong side. Other way. Over here. Bingo.
There we go.
Um, yeah, so yeah, I thought that was great too. I other things that caught my attention, I really was pleased to see that the IT governance features are coming to Power Platform in a bigger way, deeper integration into the Graph API, into the security stack. I thought that was great. Actually, that was a Microsoft Teams thing too. That's always been there, by the way. I mean, DLP for Teams has been there for a while now, but I was really pleased that they made a point of highlighting it, because I don't see very many customers that have actually deployed it. Where if you typed in, for example, a social security number into Teams, that it would actually catch and prevent that. Feature is not a new feature, but something that they made a point to highlight. I thought that was great. Um, so some things that caught my attention in particular, I mean, there was a lot at this event. Certainly big changes in the Azure stack. I was very pleased to see that there is new certification track for our industry for things like Windows Virtual Desktop. I was also very pleased to see that we've got some new functionality on the compliance side going more granularly into the Power Platform. A lot of the connectors in Power Platform represent risks for data leakage if you're not careful about how you use them. I think as administrators, having the granular ability to go in and disable specific actions without having to disable an entire connector is really compelling and powerful. But I'll tell you what the big takeaway was for me. I'm a humanist. At my heart, to me, it's all about the people. I think that, and I actually made a comment on Twitter about it yesterday that, I was I had a moment of just sort of being in awe of where we are right now. I mean, I I watched the presentation, the keynote in Oculus, like I mentioned. Then they announced Mesh, and the very next thing that happened was, Kyle and I, who are both in the developer program, got really excited and grabbed our HoloLens units and immediately downloaded the Mesh app. And last night, at 10 o'clock at night, Kyle Mueller is in my office here with me as an avatar, which, by the way, looked scarily like him because he spent time like right down to getting the part correct on his hair with the same flannel shirt he's wearing now. Honestly, that's what his avatar was wearing last night. It was the creepiest thing. We he walked around in the space with me, and when you get into, we'll do a video on this, but when you get into Mesh, there's an anchor object in the room, and it's actually a table. And the point of the anchor object is to create a common reference for distance, that Kyle has, that I have. Our distance from the table determines our position in the room. But the cool thing is Kyle can position the table in a space that leaves him adequate room to walk around. I can position the table in my space that leaves him adequate. But when we walked up to each other last night and I put my hand up and I went like this, and Kyle took his finger and touched mine, and they were touching perfectly, just like this. That was a crazy moment. We shook hands. I can't feel his hand, but it's like perfectly connected. And I think the big moment for me too was when we were talking about something, and he said this thing is really cool, and just autonomically I immediately mirrored the thumbs up, and I had this moment of like, oh wow, like wait a minute, there was body language there that was happening. So I had this really crazy moment of thinking about the billions of dollars of technology and the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of technology professionals that have been involved in bringing all this stuff to life. And at the end of it, if we don't have human-centric approaches to deploying it and finding the right ways to use it, none of it matters. And, so with all this technology and all this automation, at the end of the day, it really is still all about the people. And so the big takeaway from me was some things that Satya Nadella said, in his keynote. He made a comment about, and I'm going to misquote him slightly, but he essentially said that, if a technology partner succeeds, it should be because the world around them succeeds. He also made a comment about creation and the democratization of creation, that in the next couple of decades, we're going to need new technologies that democratize creation. And as somebody that is a very creative person that loves the humanity of this technology, I was so pleased that the humanity and the personal touch of the situation wasn't being lost in the midst of the ridiculously incredible technology that they were showing off. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot more to come today too. Kyle, I'm curious with the mesh thing last night. If you had to pick out the two things, and we're running out of time here, but the two things in just a couple of sentences that really blew your mind, what were they with mesh?
So I think the number one thing when it comes to Mesh is just the amount of expression that you can really convey through that platform that you can't do on a Teams call. As you probably noticed, I'm talking with my hands a lot here. I talk with my hands. I use a lot of body language every day. And Mesh allows you to track both hands in the space, track eye movement, track height and level of the person in the room. And it really allows you to feel like you're there with the person. And like I said, I use so much nonverbal communication, so much hand gesturing in my everyday conversational mode that just blew my mind. And the other big thing with Mesh was the ability to very easily import 3D renderings from your personal OneDrive because it's automatically tied to your Azure Active Directory account. And so as long as that file exists in the OneDrive folder that Mesh creates automatically for you, you can bring in any 3D model you want and be able to interact with that alongside the other person. I can move something to a certain spot in the room. As soon as I set it there and let go, you're able to pick it up and move it back. We're able to really visualize the same space together.
Yeah, it's Jeremy. I think you would have loved this last night. I mean, we were like little kids. You know, like at one point, Kyle was like, "Hey, when you look to the right, your eyes actually look to the right on your avatar." And then I'm like, "Oh, look to the right," and I'm watching his eyes change. You know, as he's looking around, and it really is true. There were things I actually it took time to notice them. The it's so I don't think about in real life, oh, Kyle just looked to the right. So why would I think about it when the avatar does it? What would have happened is I would have noticed it if the avatar didn't do it. But that was the interesting thing is that it took us time to figure out all the things it was doing because the things it was doing were so natural that we didn't notice them at first. We would have noticed them if they weren't happening, right? So yeah, can't wait for you to try this stuff. It's pretty cool. All right,
Yeah,
And
so
one
watch.
thing
go ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, watching those, those presentations as a marketer, I was already thinking about, how can this be used not only to improve one-on-one communications, one-on-one meetings, but how is this going to expand? Because obviously they're going to keep building on this. They're going to keep developing and expanding its capabilities. What is this going to mean, bringing it back to those virtual events for the future of events where how much more immersive can we actually make this for attendees? Really exciting things on the horizon for sure.
All right, well, we're pretty much at our time here, so I'm going to start wrapping it up. Things that I am looking forward to today, I'm going to be spending time on Microsoft Viva. I'm going to be spending time on semantic search capabilities, new semantic search capabilities in Azure. I'm going to be messing around with some of the the machine learning additions that have happened. I'm also very interested in the Dynamics 365 updates, so I'll be looking at those as well. So tomorrow, if you'd like to join us again, we're going to be doing this one more time again tomorrow and then again on Friday. Today was just sort of the high level 50,000 foot view. Tomorrow we'll probably zoom in on some Viva stuff or maybe show a video of what the experience was like in virtual reality. Or, you know, we also shot some videos last night of the whole mesh
Mesh.
experience. Yeah. So guys, thank you very much for taking the time and joining us today. And we'll see you guys all again tomorrow.
Thanks, everyone.
It's been a joy.